Hey, this is Kevin Flerlich. John Schwabish saw a really great chart on the Washington Post and decided to recreate it in Excel. And he asked me if I would recreate it in Tableau. So that's what we're going to do today. You see the chart there on your screen. So I'm going to try and recreate that in Tableau. The data, and I actually have the data. So kind of just mock something up. Now, Tableau likes data to be tall versus wide. So I built this in a kind of a tall format. This is what I would do normally. So we have this particular chart that I'm used this data set for. So we have House, Senate, and Governor. So I have 3 rows for each that show House, Senate, and Governor and the value. So each state has 3 rows for this particular data set. And then this one is showing kind of 5 steps. I honestly don't know what all the steps are, but I just have these 5 different steps. And so in this particular data set, we've got each state with the 5 different steps. So, and I just call them step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5. Now, the grays, I'm considering zeros. Nothing happened. They're not to that step yet. So those are zeros. The orange ones where they've actually passed that step, I've got as 1. And then if it's a little bit bigger, I just made it 2. So we just kind of trying to replicate what these things mean. We could do this in calculations in Tableau if we wanted, but I just wanted to set it up that way. All right, so in Tableau, what I did is just join those together. Now, I just took the state data, which I called it, I took one data set and I joined it to the other data set on state. Now, what's going to happen here is I've got 5 rows here, and I've got 3 rows for Wyoming. There's Wyoming here. So what I have is basically multiplying these 5 rows by these 3 rows, and I'm getting 15 rows for each. I think there's 35 rows in this and 3 rows here, 3 rows for each here. So you're getting 105 rows. So I'm essentially kind of blowing up my data a little bit. But I'm going to use averages. I'm not going to use sums, so that won't matter much. So, all right, let's give this a go. I started the sheet. I am going to try to replicate this sheet, this chart first, just like in our spreadsheet. I'll go back here. I'm going to just replicate this chart first. So I'm going to drag state out onto rows and fit the height. And then it's this, let's just toggle back here. We've got these types across, and then we have the individual values in the actual chart. So let's put this type on columns. I'll kind of bring that across the top. We'll put the value on the text card. I'm going to center those up vertically and horizontally. And then I'm going to change this to a square mark, and we're going to just change the color of those to pink. That's pretty darn close to what we want. I think the label maybe is a little bit darker, maybe bold. All right, we could change all that. I think this label, this header should be a little darker. But the only other thing I think that's in here is these sort of row separators. We could do that really quickly by right-clicking Format, picking this. And it shows that there's a row divider here. I'm just going to bring this level up. And I think we pretty much have that chart. Now, I guess I see one other thing. Up here it says party control. I have this labeled as HSG type. So we can rename that if we wanted. But I'm just going to show, I'm just going to do an inline calculation on columns. And I'm going to drag that to be the first spot. And you see play controls there. Party control, play control. Party control is right there. So I think that looks pretty much like it. The other thing I see is sorting. We can manually sort this to be exactly like the other one, but based on the other charts, I think it's sorted by step value. We will get back to that momentarily, but I will go ahead and set that. So this looks like that chart. The other thing is the order of these. We could just drag these items to reorder them. So House, Senate, Governor. All right. The second sheet, we're gonna do this. I should note that we could do this all in one sheet. I'm gonna do it in 2 sheets in Tableau. I just think it's the easiest way to do it. We could do it in 1 sheet. It'd be a lot more difficult. Probably not for this video. We could use map layers. We could do some crazy things, but we're just gonna do it in 2 sheets. Put them together in a dashboard. So this is the chart we're going to create next. This is a little bit trickier. So I'm going to drop state on here and fit the height just like we did. And as I'm looking through this, it looks like I can do a line chart and then a circle marks is sort of a dual axis. So let's try that. I'm going to, what do we have across here? These are the kind of our different steps, right? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's put the step number up here. And we could change this to circle mark, and we kind of have a piece of this. Now, I need a line as well. So let's change this to a line and see what happens. All right, that might do it. But I need this to be a dual axis. Does anybody know how to do a dual axis with a discrete pill up here? Actually, we really just need this to be continuous. We make that continuous, that line becomes a zigzag. And that's, when we use a line mark, we have this path card. And this kind of just tells us how we're going to draw this line. I'm just going to put step on path. So that's going to just kind of run it through each step and then stop. So we have the line. We're going to dual axis this. I'm just going to hit Control and drag this over. And we're going to change the secondary axis to a circle mark. All right. And then we're just going to right click and set this to a dual axis. I want to make these circles a little bit bigger. Now I want to color them. And before, here's the step value. I told you what these step values kind of associated with. So I'm going to just put step value on color. And I don't want it, if we look at this value here, it says 0 to 6, right? We didn't have any values of 0 and 6. We had 0, 1s, and 2s. The reason this is showing 6 is because we've duplicated our data. So I'm going to set this, instead of a sum, I'm going to set it to average. Okay. So now we have 0 to 2. And I want to make this discrete. I don't want this continuous color palette up here. I want it discrete. All right, so we're getting somewhere. Before I sorted it in a certain way, I'm going to sort in that same way in this chart. I think of it by step value descending. So we're starting to see what we want. Now, I did mention we had some values that were a little bit bigger. So maybe we can take that step value and put it on size. Try that again to put on size. Now I have values of 0. All right, again, I need to make this an average. Now we have values of 0, 1s, and 2s. Really, I want the zeros, the gray. The zeros really represent the small gray, and the 1s represent the small orange. I really want the zeros and the 1s to be the same size, and these other ones to be a little bit bigger. So I can create a little calculation, really simple. It says, if the step value equals 0, then give me 1, else give me the step value. Essentially, what you're going to have is some 1s and some 2s. I'm going to put that on our size. Again, we're going to average this instead. So this is starting to look similar to what we want. I'm going to edit this size and get it more along the lines of what I want here. So make those a little bit bigger. That's probably a little too small. Just a touch bigger. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe we'll make this size. Okay. That's starting to look pretty good. All right. Now, let's go over to our line mark. Now, if we look at this, our line mark is orange up to the orange dots and gray up to our gray dots, right? I think I made this a little too small. So how are we going to color this? Maybe I could color it in the same way I colored this. So average of the step value. Let's put step value on color. We'll average it. And I should note, we can just right click and set default properties, aggregation, average. So when we drag it on there, it won't sum them. And let's just try and make this discrete. And the colors, you can see, I've set the 1s and 2s to orange. That makes sense. And the grays to 0, to the 0 to gray. The problem we've got here with this line mark is that it is, it's like this gradient color. It doesn't look the same as this. This is really discrete. It comes with this dot and it's orange and then it turns gray. We've kind of got this gradient color, which is a little bit of a difficult thing to manage. So I don't know that we can use a line mark. I think we're going to have to use something else. And that's exactly what I did in this chart here. And I'll kind of show you what we did. So instead of using a line mark, I'm going to use a bar chart. Basically, what we're going to make is a stacked bar chart. So let's put state on the view again, fit the height, and I've created this calculation of length. Okay, so let's look back at this. We've got segments of lines, or we're going to be, these are going to be bars now. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 segments of bars, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. We have step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 5 dots, 4 bars. So we essentially need to reduce one of those bars. So I just said if it's step 5, if the step number equals 5, then we're going to make the length of it 0. Otherwise, we're going to make the length 1. So we're going to have these segments of 1, and we're only going to have 4 of them. So let's put that up here. And now automatically set it to a bar. And we've got just one big bar. We want to break this into pieces. So how might we break that into pieces? We put stuff on detail. So we're going to put that step number on detail. And this is going to break. Now we have these 4 different pieces. This is going to be our lines. And now if we put step value on there, I think we're going to have to actually reverse this. And we're going to, that's an average. Now let's set our colors. Oops. We want to make this discrete as well. Our colors should already be set. Now we can kind of see this looking a little better than what it looked before. In fact, let's bring our size way down. And we now have these lines that are fully orange and fully gray. You can kind of see it's not really a line. It's just a bunch of stacked bar charts, right? It's stacked bars. All right, so that's looking good. I forgot about our sort, so let's do that. Field, descending by step value. Okay, now we're sorting the same way. Now we're really going to just do the same thing that we did before. We're going to duplicate this pill, and we're going to make that a circle mark. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Now, this is representing those 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm only showing 2 dots. Why is that? Well, if I actually select this, we'll look down at the bottom, I've selected 5 of 70 marks. There's 5 marks selected. So that's because these things are stacked on top of each other. So I want to unstack these marks. And how do we do that? We just go to Analysis, Stack Marks, turn on. All right. Now we're going to do a dual axis. And now you can kind of see this coming together. We'll synchronize this axis. And you can see that this chart is basically what we wanted to create. Now, I'm not going to go through all the particulars of what we did before, but I'm just going to jump to the final viz. I just added some text and some cleanup. And I basically put these on a dashboard like this and just cleaned it up and added some padding and things. And in the end, we'll have a chart that looks like this. And here is the image that I was provided with by John. And here is what I did in Tableau. 2 different sheets, and looks pretty much like it. One thing I didn't add is the labels, and there's a few little things that I didn't quite clean up, but it looks pretty much identical. So there you have it, how to create this Washington Post chart in Tableau. Thanks.